Hey everybody, welcome back. This is MGB with you. We're going to be discussing week 9 here in a second. As always, let's go over week 8 and where my hits and misses were. And actually, I give you a lot of guys to go with. I only had one miss, and it was the one I really took a leap on. Because as you know, if you ever watch what I do, I don't come out and tell you start the guys that you know you should be starting. You know you got to start those guys. Okay, so I came in with my advice having 34 wins, 13 losses, and 8 draws. And I told you to start Andy Dalton. You know, I think at this point, Andy Dalton might be not even a guy that I need to tell you to start most weeks. He was obviously up until now, but I think he's kind of proven himself. So I'd gone with Andy Dalton. He had 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks also, but he still got you up to about 18 points. And if you were on a bye week, if you had Rodgers or something, Dalton was a fantastic sit-in. I also told you to start Christian Ponder, pick him up and start him, and obviously a win on both of those. As if you had a guy that was on bye again, you Aaron Rodgers owners. 230 some yards, a touchdown, no turnovers, 15, 17, 18 points depending on your league scoring. So that's another win. You were happy with that if you picked up Ponder. A week ago I said don't start Maurice Jones-Drew, and I was right. He got you between 6 and 8 points. This week I said go ahead and start him, and normally I don't tell you to start your studs, but I only said that because the week before I told you not to start him. And he got in the end zone, a touchdown, 63 yards, a catch for 11 yards. So, you know, he did okay for you. I'm not giving myself anything on that just because that was basically just saying to retract the previous week on don't start MJD. Alright, I told you to start Brandon Lloyd of the Rams. I had a really good feeling about the Rams this week. I thought with Lloyd sort of adding things, Steven Jackson has been back a few games now and really has been looking good. And obviously, if you had Steven Jackson, if you're a Jackson owner, man, you were happy as hell. Okay, so Brandon Lloyd, 6 catches, 50 some yards, touchdown, getting you 17 points in your flex spot or your number 2 spot. That was fantastic. I told you to pick up and start Tennessee's defense. Man, it was fantastic. They got you 20 points, depending on how your league scores. Great out of a defense, especially a replacement defense. But hey, that's what I do. So I got a win on that, win on Lloyd, win on Ponder, win on Dalton. God, what did Tennessee have, man? 10... no, they didn't have that many, did they? But anyway, they had 2 picks, 2 fumble recovers. That 10 sacks, man. They had all sorts of crazy stuff. But anyway, so they got you like 20 points. I said Fred Davis was the only guy in Washington worth starting if you had to. I had almost jumped on the train, the Torain train, I guess, whatever the hell they're calling it. I've been a big opponent of starting Ryan Torain only because I said, you know, he'll have 1 or 2 really good games like he had week 4 or whatever it was, week 5 maybe. But good luck guessing which ones are going to be like that and which ones are going to be like the last 3 games. He had a total of -5 yards 2 weeks ago. He had, I don't know, God, 20 yards or some lame shit this week. I said Fred Davis was the guy. 8 catches, 94 yards. Out of your tight end, really, really nice. And especially if you were a Jermichael Finley owner and Davis was still available and you picked him up. I'd even say he's probably a better start than Finley at this point, just because he's used more. Washington has less weapons. Okay, so a win there. Right now I'm sitting at 5-0 for the week. I said sit Kevin Cobb. He was not great. 150 yards, a TD, a pick, getting you not even double-digit points in most leagues, so that's a win for me. I said sit whoever was starting in Cleveland, Hillis or Hardesty, whoever they got, and it ended up being Hardesty, who then went out in the first. So, I mean, I could say, yeah, the guy didn't get you a single point, and I'd take a win, but honestly, I'd just eliminate it because he got hurt. So, here was, or I said start the Minnesota defense. They gave up 21 points, 3 sacks, couple of turnovers. They got you 7-8 points, which is mediocre. And you know what? I'm going to judge myself harshly. I mean, I'll take 8 points out of a replacement defense. It's better than 2 or 3. But I'm going to judge myself harshly. I'm going to give myself a draw on that. Okay, some of the pickups. I said Michael Jenkins in a flex spot. And really kind of disappointing, man. I thought Ponder was liking him. 2 catches for 30 yards, so 5 points, which there are a lot of number 1 receivers that didn't get that. So I'm going to give myself a draw on that too. Christian Ponder. Now in the replies here, I gave it wasn't in the video, but it was in the replies. I said don't be afraid to start Michael Crabtree against the Browns, and sure enough, he got you 15 or more points. Got in the end zone, 5 or 6 catches, something like that. But Crabtree, so I give myself a win on that. So on the season so far, I did have 1 loss, and I'm going to give myself a loss on this. Went out on a limb, and I said that the New England Patriots were going to bracket Mike Wallace and make the other receivers for Pittsburgh beat him. Wallace didn't have a great day. He didn't get in the end zone, but he did have 70 yards. So depending on if your league's PPR or not, and I like to think every league's PPR because it should be, he got you anywhere from 7 to 14 points, which he's supposed to be the number 1 guy. That's not bad. That's pretty good. And so if you sat him, on my advice, sorry, I lost just 7 or so or more points depending on your league. But yeah, I'm sure you started someone else instead, and so the discrepancy isn't that bad. But that's my only loss of the week. So after this, I am sitting at 42 wins, 14 losses, and 10 draws, which I think is pretty solid advice. So listen up to what I have to say next. Week 9, wham! There goes page 1. Here's who I think you're starting. I think you're starting Carson Palmer against Denver. In fact, that game, you're starting both guys. Tebow sucked asshole this last week. Don't expect it to really happen again. He'll still throw a pick or 2, but against Oakland's terrible rush defense, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tebow have 100 yards rushing, up to 200 yards passing, couple TDs, couple picks, maybe 1 TD, 2 picks, but still get you in the vicinity of 20 points. So I'm saying start both Palmer and Tebow if you have them. Start Matt Castle against Miami. He should tear him up. Wide receivers, once again, start Brandon Lloyd. They're playing Arizona. Malcolm Floyd, who's been sort of coming on a little bit here, I think needs to be started against Green Bay, a very soft Green Bay defense. And I think, God, after 2 straight losses, the way Phillip Rivers, he lost that game for him. Single-handedly, Phillip Rivers lost the Monday night game, Kansas City and San Diego last night. It was atrocious. I've never seen him look so bad. He threw for almost 400 yards, but turning the ball over. At the end, they had the game won, those bastards. So, Phillip Rivers, this is your week, buddy. So I think he's going to be throwing it up and down the field. Start Atlanta's defense versus Indianapolis. At this point, start anybody almost who's playing Indianapolis. Running back this week, man, almost all the studs are playing. I have them ranked. In fact, I'll give you my website here in a minute where you can see where I ranked. I did running backs and quarterbacks this week. Nothing fancy on the website. It's just a website where I jot down the shit that's in my head. But it's something you might want to look at. So start Beanie Wells at running back. I know he's kind of borderline stud, but since he's actually healthy, I say start him against St. Louis. That should be a high-scoring game. All right, sit. You know, I think you're sitting Jay Cutler this week against Philadelphia because I think they're going to rely on Matt Forte. Sure, he's going to hit Forte on the screen passes some, but I think they're really just a lot of handing the ball, pitching the ball to Forte versus Philadelphia. I think I have a hard time doing this, but I think you might even set Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. Sit him on your bench versus the Jets. Man, they got Fred Jackson. They should use him. Man, just pound the ball with Jackson. I think you're sitting Chris Johnson, man. Like I expected this week to be the week that he busted out against Indianapolis. If not against Indianapolis, who the hell are you going to bust out against? It's certainly ain't going to be Cincinnati, I don't think. And I think the defense you're sitting is San Diego. Very good defense, and I rarely say sit San Diego's defense this week. They're playing Green Bay. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think you're sitting San Diego's defense. Okay, so you got anything to say, guys, to ask about? Post under here, replies. Also, the website is mgbfantasysports.tripod, because I don't own the domain yet, .com. And so I'll put it in the replies as well. But again, it's nothing fancy. Check out my rankings. Again, you can see my advice is usually spot on, as well as it can be. So anyway, you got anything to say? Let me know. Hit me up. And until next week, this has been the best advice you're going to get.